Palmer, I want to keep it focused on technology, but I'd also like to invite you to start just to give your reaction to the outcome of the election and I guess reflect your sentiments about the next 4 years.
Well, I think it was obvious to most people who have been paying attention to what people are paying attention to. I know that that's contentious. A lot of people thought it was going to be close. I didn't think it was. Of course, I'm biased. I've been a Trump supporter for a long time. I supported him in 2016. I supported him in 2020. I actually wrote a letter to him while I was in college in 2011, telling him that he should run for president. So I've been a fan of the master of the art of the deal for a long time. It's nice to see it finally culminate. I'm also a big fan of his pick in JD Vance for vice president. He's done an incredible job. Everyone else has got to see that. But I've known JD for a while, and he's an incredible person. But my reaction on kind of the more business side, the defense side, is it's great to have someone inbound who is deeply aligned with the idea that we need to be spending less on defense while still getting more, that we need to do a better job of procuring the defense tools that protect our country. Trump famously got involved in the nitty-gritty of some of our aircraft carrier design and some of the procurement of Air Force One. To see that level of involvement from a president is pretty rare, and I think an indicator of his priorities.
You wrote a letter to the guy back in 2011. Who knows whether that inspired his run, Palmer, but you're close, of course, with the VP-elect as well. Are you talking about anyone to be the defense secretary? Have you got anyone's ear? Would you like anyone in particular?
Look, I've got opinions. I'm in touch with the transition team, of course, and I know a lot of people who are involved with the transition, have known them for a long time in many cases. I've heard a few names thrown around for a potential Secretary of Defense, but also for the many roles that are in, maybe not the secretary level. They don't get quite as discussed on shows like yours, but still very, very important roles. In how we, so you know what? I don't want to throw any names out there because I would be happy with all of them. There's not a single name that I'm heard that I'm unhappy with, and I have to play nice and not say, oh well, I prefer this guy or that guy. All of the names that I've seen are people who do an incredible job.
Thank you, Palmer. Anduril has spent years working with the Department of Defense, right? And I don't want you to reflect too much on the experience that has been, but maybe you could talk us through the changes you think are needed in that department structurally in terms of how government does business with private enterprise like Anduril.
Sure. Look, I got into the defense space after, I sold my first company, Oculus, to Facebook for a few $1 billion, was working on VR there for a few years before I got fired. And the reason I got into national security is because I wanted to save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars a year by making tens of billions of dollars a year. And I think that can be done by encouraging the creation of defense product companies that use their own money to decide what to build, how to build it, when it's done, and then have skin in the game. When they fail, they lose money. When they succeed, they make money. I think the set of incentives that you see in a lot of defense contracting today, defense procurement today, cost plus contracting, where you're paid for your fixed time and materials and then a fixed percentage of profit on top, it rewards exactly the wrong things. You make more money by making things more expensive. You make more plus by having more cost, and that manifests in the form of programs that go too long, programs that are too expensive, components that are more expensive than need be because it's really the only way to make more money on it. In fact, in some cases, they make more money with things that break frequently than not. And so I think what we really need is companies that are aligned with the way that we do business in the rest of our economy. You build a good product, you sell it, you make money.
So in terms of contracting, if we see a shakeup, will you benefit? Will the startups benefit a little bit more than they have been? Who are the winners? Who are the losers, do you think, Palmer?
Well, I think the winners are going to be particularly two things. I think it's going to be a lot of these new startups that are springing up in the wake of Anduril's success. I often say that other defense startups have raised a lot more money off my success than I have, which I'm fine with. And I've raised billions, but I've seen their pitch decks. They're saying, hey, Anduril did it. The DoD is moving with this. People understand that this is a viable business model. I think another beneficiary is going to be companies that have been around for a long time that are very, very competent, that know how to get things done, that know how to write a budget, that know how to build a team, that know how to build a product. The companies that suffer are going to be the ones that try to shunt responsibility for their failures over and over and over again onto the taxpayer. I think they're the ones who are going to struggle. And I don't want to make this sound like this is just a Trump thing. This is a nonpartisan idea. I mean, Anduril's been around for about 8 years now. We did well under Trump in his first administration, and we did even better under Biden in his administration. I think we're going to do even better now. It's the defense space is one of the few that has, I think, actually successfully remained pretty nonpartisan, and that's aligned with Anduril too. I'm a Republican, obviously. I'm the founder of Anduril, but our CEO, Brian Schiff, is a Democrat. He's fundraised for Kamala. He's done fundraisers for other Democrat politicians. The idea that the United States military should have the strongest military in the world and that we should defend our allies around the world, not just with our military, but especially giving them the tools that they need to defend themselves, it's a pretty nonpartisan idea.
Has the election of Donald Trump caused Anduril to adjust or change planning for China and allies like Taiwan?
I don't think so. Mostly because I was certain he was going to win. I think it was already baked in.
Elon Musk, okay. There's an association between the two. The great unknown is whether Musk will hold a formal or informal role in some government department. But I guess, what's your assumption and planning on how much attention he can keep Trump focused on defense, space, and what you kind of think it will actually lead to? Do you see what I mean?
I think that Elon has outperformed every reasonable expectation of him. I was one of the people, I have to admit, that didn't believe that he could successfully work on Twitter and SpaceX and Tesla and Solar City and Neuralink and politics and everything else and Diablo 4 top 20 ranked all at the same time. But he's done it. And so on the one hand, it's easy to say, oh, man, I think it's going to be really hard for him to do all of that and also, keep this administration maybe focused on things like space, making humanity a multiplanetary species, an extrasolar species eventually. But you know what? Everyone who's ever bet against Elon has come away crying. So I think I'm probably just going to have to say, yeah, I bet he's going to do it somehow. Somehow he's going to do it.
Well, the defense sector getting a big boost following the election results as well. And defense tech, AI, Silicon Valley, these are growing more important for the government's innovation in national security and on the battlefield. So what will that dynamic look like under a second Trump administration? Well, joining me for a First on CNBC interview is Anduril co-founder Palmer Luckey. He supported Donald Trump in the election. And Palmer, it's always great to have you on. Welcome.
Hey, and I did not just in this election, I supported him last time around, and I supported him in 2016. And I don't know if you know this, I actually wrote a letter to Donald Trump in 2011 telling him that he should run for president. So I've been on the tech for Trump train for longer than just about anyone. And I've been punished for it, I've been fired for it, and to finally win, it's kind of nice. I haven't won so much, I'm tired of winning, but I'm getting there.
Great. So if a Trump administration approached you to work within the administration, then would you?
Look, I think that I'm doing some pretty good stuff inside of Anduril. I started Anduril because I wanted to help transform U.S. national security, save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars by making tens of billions of dollars. I think that that's probably where I would need to be. Now, if someone calls me up and says there's this incredible role where you can make an incredible impact, I'd probably have to answer the call. I've got a lot of my ego wrapped up in believing that what I'm doing is the best thing I could be doing for my country. So someone would have to convince me that it's the best thing I could be doing. I think that's going to be hard given how things are going at Anduril. But I'm actually feeling good even without me in the administration. I think Trump is a change candidate. He very much wants to balance the budget. He wants to save money. He wants to get more for less. I think it's pretty interesting. You saw Trump last time around get personally involved with the negotiation of major DoD contracts, including with things like Air Force One. I think that's something you haven't really seen with presidents in a long time, direct involvement in trying to get more for less out of our defense budget. I think that's great. And I actually also think that President Trump is not going to politicize the defense procurement apparatus, which I really appreciate. Contrast that with, I think you saw senior Democrats saying we need to take away contracts from people on the basis of their political views because people are injecting themselves into the democratic process. Anduril's a nonpartisan company. I'm a Republican. I'm the founder. Our CEO, Brian Schiff, though, he's a Democrat. He fundraised for Kamala. He hosted fundraisers for other Democrats this cycle as well. But the idea that we need to be the strongest military in the world is really nonpartisan. Thank goodness. Outside maybe like Jill Stein. I don't know.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up Air Force One because we did see that with Air Force One. We saw it with F-35 as well. But in the Air Force One case specifically, part of what was notable there was the shift to a fixed price contract that happened.
That's right.
And it shifted risk from and the financial ties associated with risk from the government and thus the taxpayer to the company, which in that case has been Boeing. And we've seen that showing up in quarterly earnings and everything else with charges. So it raises the question, do we see more of that type of contracting moving forward? And I know you and I have talked about this in the past, but does it mean that you need to actually increase defense spending then to get more, or can you do it with less?
I think you can do it with less if you do it right. Look, I strongly believe in contractors being accountable for what they do. It is ludicrous to have a business model that allows companies to fail at what they do and make money, and the more they fail, the more they make. This is the terrible thing about cost plus contracting. You can often make more money by doing a lesser job, a worse job, by being late, by being more expensive. And now I'm worried that you have major defense contractors, including Boeing, including Raytheon, saying that they're going to move away from even bidding on fixed price contracts. And to a certain degree, I think that's an attempt to pressure government out of business models that do make sense for the taxpayer. I said it again, said it before, I'll say it again. My goal is to save taxpayers hundreds of billions of dollars a year. I don't think that sticking with the current contracting model is going to get there. I think that if you select the right companies, with the right business models, you can succeed and spend less. I think another great example is a little bit outside of DoD. Look at, for example, what SpaceX has done in space launch, making launch literally 1,000 times cheaper than it was when you had the government doing traditional cost plus work with a variety of different aerospace contractors. I think that that is the type of innovation we need to bring to the DoD. There's a lot of things that we could be building for 10 times less, 100 times less, maybe even 1,000 times less, and be more effective. That's the way we're going to get to the moon. That's the way we're going to get to Mars. That's the way we're going to become a multi-planetary and eventually extrasolar civilization. And it's the way that we're going to defend free shipping lanes in space, our asteroid colonies, and everything else. That's not going to happen on a cost plus basis.